called to order at 5:51 p.m. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Present. Denise Millington. Present. Jason Red. Present. Jane Rosenbaum. Present. Guillermo Gomez.
Present.
Gerald Trueheart absent. We have a quorum.
Okay, the Sunshine Law. The New Jersey Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted on. Upon the rules of this Act, the Trenton Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting by publicizing the date, time, and place, therefore posted in the Central Services Building, 108 North Clinton Avenue, City Clerk's Office, City Hall, and the Times. Anyone whose name is on the mailing list should receive a notice. Formal action will take place at this meeting. We have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Don't be offended.
D.A. Grant.
Yes.
Kate Guston.
Yes.
Jason Red. Yes. Guillermo Gomez.
Yes.
Gerald Trueheart absent. Denise Millington.
Yes.
Good evening, Madam President. Tonight, Principal Nicole Bethea is proud in the audience, is proud to present the Franklin Elementary School's music and art departments. Under the artistic direction of Mr. Kevin Wiley, the elementary students from Franklin have prepared jaguar masks of Mesoamerica and molas of the Cunha culture that are outside in the foyer. The Franklin third grade chorus, under the direction of Mr. William Bird, will be singing one of the most popular and standard songs by Rodgers and Hammerstein from the musical The Sound of Music, the song My Favorite Things. This tune has become such a popular and standard melody in the American musical culture that the great late jazz tenor saxophonist John Coltrane recorded a 14-minute version of it. Tonight, the Franklin School boys and girls will perform the much shorter version of that song, but they will be accompanied by music teacher Ms. Stephanie Meadow on the clarinet, and we encourage you all to please welcome our Franklin Elementary School students. Let's hear it for the Franklin Elementary students one more time. And once again, Principal Nicole Bethea, will you please come up so we can honor you, and let's give the principal, Ms. Bethea, a big round of applause. All right, great job, boys and girls. And as our boys and girls are exiting, we're going to take a few moments to set up for public comment. If you came tonight just for the performance and are not staying for the full board meeting, this would be the appropriate time to leave while we are setting up. But you are certainly welcome to stay the entire evening. We are welcome you to be a part of our board meeting. But if you came just for the performance, now would be the appropriate time in these next few minutes to leave. Thank you. And again, if you are leaving due to the performance, if we can ask you to quickly take your conversations to the lobby so that we can go on to our next section of the meeting. Once again, all members of the public, if you could please take your conversations to the lobby while we're setting up for our next section of the meeting. We thank you for coming out tonight. Mr. Collins, can you please close the doors in the back for us as people leave? Thank you. That's all right.
Okay, next we have public participation. And our first speaker is Shauna Ingram. And you have two people who have donated their time to you, Imari Stokes and Monique Stokes. Yes. You have 9 minutes.
I think I can get it all out in 9. Hi, I am Shauna Ingram. I'm the PTA president for Stokes Early Childhood. And I'm coming to appeal to the board for some type of assistance. I've been working with Dr. Duran and Dr. Kendra Jones since basically the beginning of school, because I've been running into a lot of problems with Mrs. Downing and her willingness to assist us. So I've been, I don't really know what else to do. Like, even after having a meeting on Friday, I still, like this morning I went in to speak to her and I'm still being met with so many issues and problems. So I just need to know how I can proceed forward with this. So basically that's like why I'm coming, to appeal to the board. But I have a list of emails stemming from the beginning of our conversations through everything, and even again, like I said, I had a meeting on Friday where in the presence of Ms. Johnson, she said that she would cooperate and assist, and I go in today to speak with her and it's right back to the same thing. So in their presence, she's complying and willing to assist and help, and then after that, I'm kind of on my own to go back to them. So I don't really know what else to do at this point, so I'm coming to you all for some type of assistance. Other than that,
Good evening, ma'am. I'm Lester Taylor, attorney for the board. I'm going to advise the superintendent to schedule a meeting with you to look into this and report back to the Board of Education in terms of what maybe steps you can take to address your concern. Because it involves some personnel-related issues and day-to-day issues, it would be appropriate for the board to respond.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, our next speaker is Larry Capo, and you have time donated by Maureen, I'm sorry, I can't make out the last name, and Peppermint?
Yes.
And something Young.
Young.
And you have 9 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. Superintendent Duran, great to see you. My name is Larry Capo. I'm the President and CEO of Young Audience New Jersey and Eastern Pennsylvania. This is the 9th year that I've come before the school board with great news of providing arts experiences for all children in Trenton. Young Audiences is an organization that was formed back in 1973, so we celebrated our 40th anniversary last year. And our mission is to bring professional artists into schools to do performances, workshops, residencies, and teacher professional development. 9 years ago, when Trenton pulled much of its funding for arts programs, Young Audiences chose to take action. We have raised, to date, close to $1 million to provide our Trenton students with arts programming over these 9 years. I'm happy to report that through our fundraising efforts again this year, we were able to provide all 23 elementary and middle schools with programming from Young Audiences. Each of these programs, although we're not arts teachers, we help support arts teachers in the school. We do bring professional working artists that are some of the best performers and artists in the state and beyond. The programs always bring an experience for children to see the most extraordinary arts experiences that they can have in all art forms, so art, music, theater, dance, digital arts, etc. Each program helps students understand the context of the importance of arts, not only in their communities, in the state, in the country, but across the world. Our rich culture is dependent on those arts experiences. We also, with every program we bring into the school, the child is able to experience the creative process. So they get to create arts of their own. And lastly, our programs connect the art and the art form with their lives, to enrich their lives, to help them succeed in life and in other learning. Through our professional development with teachers, we help teachers understand how they can use the arts more effectively in their classrooms, connected to the core curriculum and the goals of the school. So each program that we provide in every school is connected with whatever the goals of that school might be. So we're very delighted, again, later this evening, you'll have the opportunity to vote for whether you will accept, again, this programming in the schools. We sincerely hope you do. It is our passion. We're a not-for-profit organization that works very hard. We have programs in a little over 700 schools in New Jersey and Eastern Pennsylvania. But we have a great admiration for what goes on in Trenton. We believe in the children. As you saw from the Franklin School group tonight, the arts make a difference in their lives. and we are very proud to be able to support the district at no cost to the district. So I would like to introduce my colleague, Maureen Heffernan. Maureen is our Director of Arts and Education and one of the most amazing teaching artists you'll ever encounter. And she's here because we would like to present an award this evening. Maureen?
Thank you, Larry. I'm going to just move this around so everybody can hear this. As part of our 40th anniversary celebration, we decided that young audiences should honor the people that we work with, what we call our Arts Champions Award. And we really look for people that work in great partnership with us to bring and deliver the arts to students all over the state. And we know that in Trenton, we certainly cannot work without our partners in the schools. And one of those champions is Mr. Lorenzo Gonzalez, who is the parent liaison for Columbus School. If you come up, please. Mr. Gonzalez always shows support for young audiences' arts education programming by thinking of the Columbus School students and their teachers and how the arts can best fit into the curriculum and the themes of those schools. Every year, he's the first person that answers the call when we send out the request for Adopt-A-School, because he's sure to know that the Adopt-A-School programs are going to be in there.
Even before
he calls us. And one of the things that Columbus School has done is it's also provided a space for us to audition new programming and give the students, as Larry said, a chance to really respond and tell us informed programs that are going to go out to other schools. Columbus School is one of our favorite spots to bring funders. We know that the school has an auditorium that's lovely. We know that the students are attentive audiences and that the funders will really see the impact of the programs. He is always providing a space that supports the artists and what they're trying to do. So without further ado, we would like to present a certificate of appreciation to Mr. Lorenzo Gonzalez for excellent innovation and creativity in providing arts at Columbus School. Thank you.
So I would like to point out one final thing. I passed out this sheet of paper, which I think you may have had earlier, but on the back, it lists those corporations, foundations, and individuals who support this program. I want to thank them personally, and I hope that the Trenton School District will honor them, thank them for the work that they do. Without them, we couldn't do these programs, and that would be a disaster. So we truly believe that our artists are making a difference here, and we thank you for your opportunity to meet with you tonight, and I look forward to many more years of supporting the Trenton School District. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rocio Melendez. Nadia. And next would be Naomi Johnson-LaFleur.
Good evening, everyone. I just have an issue that I'd like you all to consider. We're all aware of the Ebola crisis. We're all aware of the safeguards that are being taken as far as individuals entering into the country. I would like to know, what protocol does our district have in place for new students that are entering into the district from Liberia, Sierra Leone, or Guinea? And I ask this because in neighboring Hamilton, there's a family who adopted 2 children from Rwanda, I believe, which is all the way in East Africa, right? And the family voluntarily quarantined themselves for no reason, which I don't understand. for the 21 days, right? We now, it's come to our attention that we had a student enrolled today that is a newcomer to the country from Liberia. So I just want to know what safeguards do the district have in place, and how will they be communicated to our school community, especially teaching staff and parents? And I think that this is a question that needs some sort of response at this moment, because this matter is this serious.
Obviously, with technology. Ma'am, your question was received and heard by the administration. At this juncture, I don't believe they have a policy manual with them. I think it's advisable and recommended for the superintendent to review this issue and contact you individually sometime within the next few days.
Just to give you a frame of mind, reference of who I am, I'm the president of the Trenton Education Association. I'm here speaking on behalf of 1,100 members, and not just my members, but all of the staff members in the Trenton Public School System. And so while I respect you and that brief put off, I would like, and I expect to have a response by tomorrow.
Ma'am, it wasn't intended to be a put off. As president of the Teachers Association or any other employee union, I'm sure you're aware that you can approach and meet with the superintendent on any given day. You don't have to wait to a board meeting to do so. If the superintendent is able to reasonably respond to your request by tomorrow, he will. However, he can't, he may need additional time. I'll defer to him with respect to the time frame that is warranted to respond to your request for a copy of the document, presuming the same exists. Thank you.
And my response to that is that this information came to me approximately 5 minutes ago. I am bringing it to you because this issue is one that needs immediate address. And the board may select to discuss it in executive session. I'm fine with that. But again, I don't appreciate put-offs, and I'm certainly not going to let someone tell me when or in what, how I need to address or when I need to address. So note that.
Right on. Thank you. And our next speaker is Janice Williams.
Janice Williams, speaking as a taxpayer, 8 East Hill Street, Trenton, New Jersey. As a taxpayer, this community has a right to know from this district if something has been identified, some type of communication or statement should be sent out to the greater Trenton area in regards to how this district, should it encounter any such cases, will handle this matter. While I appreciate and respect the solicitor, he does not reside in this community. He is paid by the hour.
Okay, this is something that we need to discuss with the supervisor of nursing, who is not here this evening. Oh, she is here. I'm sorry, she is here. So you have to give us a chance to discuss this with her. And would you like to talk about it now, or would you like to talk about it later?
No, we will have, we can follow up with that.
We'll follow up with it.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, members of the public, and just in response to that, yes, we have had many conversations as well as trainings, as well as some information sent out to our school nurses on this protocol, so we will certainly follow up with you on that and share that, and to all staff to make sure that that's very clear. We also had some information that's still currently on our website that was put for parents as well, that has been there. So we will continue to make sure that we're clearer and that we have communication on that issue, because it's very, very important. Just want to congratulate our homecoming, Trent Central High School at the homecoming game. They were victorious in their 7-6 win on Saturday. Congratulate them. And I'm very proud of our marching band who was there and did a phenomenal job. And thank you to all who went into making that happen. We were able to open up our 1929 capsule from the cornerstone that was put into our building, and we have a 1956 or 56 capsule that we will be opening at subsequent events as well to share some of the documents that we put in there. And we certainly are, as we're building a new building, going to be putting our own capsule together. So we look forward to doing that, and the students have been very excited. I also want to commend all of the staff, the teachers, the administrators, our curriculum office, and our parents who on last Thursday congratulated and acknowledged more than 200 students that have graduated from our district's ESL bilingual program, and thank the curriculum office who did a phenomenal job of putting on a wonderful event for our parents and students. And thank the Trenton Times this year for putting a beautiful article with pictures honoring our students. We love to see that, and our students and parents are very proud to be recognized. And what was nice about it as well, it wasn't just online appearing in the Mercer County section, it went on the statewide education section. So we thank you for that. PZ was here in the front. And we certainly just want to remind ourselves that while we do have many challenges, many academic areas that we need to focus on, and we'll hear about some of those tonight in our presentation and our standardized test scores, that we do have a lot of successful things happening for our students. And those take place not simply on a once-a-year test that occurs, but an ongoing process that happens throughout the year. And I think what was beautiful and wonderful about last Thursday was we honored all cultures and all groups who exist here in our city and who are coming on a daily basis. And we're not just, when we talk about ESL and bilingual, unfortunately some people always think it's just Spanish and English, but it's not. It is many languages, and our district had that, and our ESL teachers were even dressed in different cultures. And it was a beautiful visual, but it was also wonderful just to be there and see the students who proudly came up and received their medal, and letting them know that this was something that we saw as a powerful, powerful tool for them. Because we all know, and the research tells us, that being bilingual will open up many, many more doors for you, and also what it does to your brain research, which talks to us about how learning more than one language allows us to learn other contents as well. So it was very, 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 very wonderful to experience, and thank everyone involved. And the last thing, just want to give some updates, some positive updates, and thank all those in our district who have worked hard on this. We were recently given the notification that we will be receiving E-rate funding, and our district business department and technology department worked very diligently to meet all the requirements these last 2 years, rather than years prior, to make sure that we receive our full share of E-rate funding. For those of you that aren't familiar with E-rate funding, this is the funding for schools and libraries and technology services to help us provide better telecommunication, internet access, and any other network connections. The federal government has set this up, and school districts can apply for funding. You have to meet a series of requirements, and it's based upon the eligible free and reduced lunch poverty rate. So for our district, that was it had to be between 20 and 90%, and ours was in the high 80%. As a result of that, and meeting all of those criteria, we will be receiving and it goes back a couple of years because they were verifying that we met all the requirements. For the 2012-13 year, we'll be receiving $415,466, and for last school year, $844,016 that will help us to be able to invest in our technology. So we are really, really pleased, and I want the public to know that we're working very diligently to make sure that our schools are park ready and have all of the internet 21st century skills that we need, certainly not just for park, which is the assessment coming up, but so that our students and our teachers can have the tools to do what they need to do for our technology. So thank you to our business department and our technology, our buildings and grounds department, who worked to make sure that we met those requirements and are able to now receive over $1 million for the last 2 years to help us in this area. And with that, I will conclude my comments for tonight. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. And next is board member comments. Any comments? Jason?
Last meeting at the end of, before we close the meeting, we made a motion the board did to ask the district to recover certain electronic equipment. I just want to get a status report on that.
Ms. Howard, will you please report on the status of that?
Yes, we are still waiting, let me make sure I say it correctly because I know we're in public. Our former board president and our former board vice president, we're still waiting for their equipment, which is an iPad and an iPhone. And from another board member, we're waiting on the iPad. We sent out certified letters, we've been to their homes, but we still have not received the equipment.
And in accordance with the motion, you guys will be moving forward with legal proceedings?
Yes, we move forward with legal proceedings.
Thank you.
I understand that in light of our upcoming presentation, Madam President, upcoming presentation, and just reiterate what our mission is. And our mission is that all students will graduate with a vision for their futures, motivated to learn continually, and prepared to succeed in their choice of college or career. And I say that because it may sound corny sometimes, because it's put out front by me, by other members of my colleagues here on the board, but it's very important that we make sure that that mission is in the forefront of our minds and in our hearts at all times. I noticed on the agenda, of course, we have our presentation on our test scores. Our test scores are measurements of and assessments of academic performance according to the state guidelines. One of those tests is the HESPA, and that is a test that is geared towards, of course, our students graduating from high school. They pass that exam. And so that's why I believe that it's so very important. You hear me speak on this many times. If not every board meeting, every other board meeting, I will speak on that. One of the things I wanted to address very quick, not address, but just make sure that everyone understands that we recognize the crisis for Ebola. We all, at Lima College, would say the same thing. We all recognize that there's a crisis. I believe that we, as a district, the superintendent has indicated that it's on our website. We've sent information out to the public. We'll do more of that. But this only takes, I want to make sure that it will be, I'm sure it will be addressed by our superintendent, that I believe it's very important that our public know how we're addressing our students and our families, as well as our teachers and others who are either directly or indirectly involved with our students, that they understand what the precautions are, they understand how to address issues that may affect their lives. So it is a very important issue for me personally, and I believe it's a very important issue for our district and from other colleagues. So I don't want to spend too much more time on it, but just to make sure and reiterate that we take it very seriously, and I personally take it very seriously, and we will definitely address that issue for me in terms of prevention measures for our students and our safety of our district. The other issue I'm sure the superintendent is going to address is the issue over at Stokes Early Childhood Program. That's something we need to really address. If there are some issues over there that's affecting the PTA, because our parents, as well as our teachers, are a very important asset to our district, and also in terms of our community. We have to make sure that our community stays involved and stays engaged in our district. One other comment I want to make is that our SDA committee, which is working with the high school construction, our meeting date has changed to the first Wednesday of each.
It varies. It's on Wednesdays, but it's the first one.
No, it's the first.
But our next all online. They're all the dates.
Okay, we changed those. Remember the
yes,
they were changed. Okay, so our next meeting will be on Wednesday, November 5th 2014. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
It's actually November 19th, because again, it's not always the first Wednesday because of the SDA availability, but it's always on a Wednesday. It used to be on Tuesdays. But it's actually on the 19th the next one. It was on the 19th, yeah.
So it's November 19th?
Yes, and all of them are on the website, but yes, it's on the 19th.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, I have a couple. The first is I'd like to apologize to our male principals who apparently felt that I left them out. They were insulted because I was so happy with as many female principals as we had at our last meeting. And I only singled the female principals out because when my kids started school here, there were all of 2 female principals. So it's like I was really excited that there are so many female principals. Not that male principals aren't wonderful. It's just that how we have increased the number of female principals. But they all do, male, female alike. They all do a wonderful job, and I hope they have a wonderful Principals Month. And I didn't mean to upset anybody. That was not my intent. Let's see. I think that's about it for right now. I think we can move on into our presentations.
Okay, our first presentation this evening, I'd like to call up our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Kendra Johnson, and Mr. Ed Ward will be providing us on our annual update to the board on our New Jersey Standardized Test Assessment results. This is the grades 3 through 8 New Jersey Ask and our HESPA results. We know that this year they'll be changing to PARC, but this is from last year. So with that, I welcome Dr. Johnson.
Good evening, Board President Millington, Vice President Redd, Superintendent Duran, as well as the board members. This evening, I am joyful to come before you with my colleague, Mr. Edward Ward, who is the Supervisor of Instructional Technology as well as Accountability. This evening, we come before you to provide the annual presentation of our standardized test scores. Furthermore, we will want to pause and say to you, this will be a responsive approach to change the trajectory in a more positive fashion. We have 2 overarching goals this evening. One is to simply lay out the data set for you in terms of a 5-year trend data, and we would like to pause and outline what our instructional response will be to this data set. Before we do that, however, I would like to pause and just situate the data review within the context of a similarity and difference analysis. The first piece is to look at the visual, and you see academic, you see progress, and you see where they overlap. The data set that you're going to receive an overview of tonight is academic data set. Is a single point in time that delineates how our kids perform as aligned to state standards. It's not diagnostic in nature, but it's a single point in time. We have multiple data sets, and in your board report, if I can draw your attention to page 13, you will see at least 8 data sets that we use in order to document progress. And I would proffer that it's the overlap between progress data sets and academic data sets that gives you the true picture of how students perform. So as you receive this information, we definitely honor it and know that we must respond, and we have a responsive approach to it. But I also offer up that it's a variety of other data sets that help to expand the full complement of how our students are performing. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Edward Ward, to provide an overview of the 5-year trend data.
very much, Dr. Johnson. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to present to you the data sets. I'm going to begin 2004 NJAX grades 3 through 8 and go over a 5-year comparison. I will begin with language arts literacy, all students who scored proficient and above. And we'll begin with grade 3. And you'll notice that we have from 2010 to 2014, 5-year data set for grade 4, 2010 to 2014, data set for grade 5, 2010 through 2014, data set for grade 6, 2010 to 2014, grade 7, and grade 8. In addition, we also have a longitudinal study, which is a cohort, which is a group of students. Now, we understand that trend is definitely transit. We have some kids that will enter our district and some kids that will leave our district on a yearly basis. But it gives us some additional trends, because if I begin with grade 3, 2010, and if I take this group of kids with grade 4, 2011, and I can move on to grade 5, 2012, grade 6 in 2013, and our 7th graders last year who took the assessment at 2014. And we can do the same with grade 4 and grade 5. My next slide is NJAX 3 through 8, mathematics, all students who scored proficient and above. Once again, it's for mathematics. We have our grade 3 for the past 5 years. Our grade 4 for the past 5 years, from 2010 to 2014. Grade 5, the same grade 6 through grade 8. Okay, we also have the bar graph that indicates, you can see the trend that we move across from 2010 through 2014. The next slide is NJAX 3 through 8, language arts literacy, special ed proficient and above, which is our 5-year trend. We'll move on to mathematics, special ed, students that score proficient and above for each year and our 5-year trend.
Before you go on to the next section,
yes,
board members have questions
sure
on the previous section.
My question is, you were giving us the data sets?
Yes, which slide, sir?
Going back to the mathematics.
Got it.
So basically this is saying that, let's take grade 3, you're showing that in 2010, basically 41% of the students were proficient or above.
That is accurate, yes.
To 2014, 43.7% of students are.
That is correct, yes. And
is there any correlation to the teaching that's been done or anything like that?
Well, that's further research that the curriculum department will continue to do. We look at the data sets, not just NJAX. We look at benchmarks, we look at Common Core assessments to really find out how well our program is working and how well our teachers are instructed, and then provide professional development in many areas.
Right, because that's what I was trying to find out. What was the meaning of the numbers?
Well, basically, what's looking is here, it's flatlining what we stayed the same the last 5 years.
Statistically, it shows there's been no real up or down. It's been very flat. So at the end of the presentation, Dr. Johnson will be talking about some of the things we need to do to address that and some of the issues that can be put in place and need to be put in place. But if you see all the slides that were just presented, language arts, math, special ed, it's been statistically flat.
Roger. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, my next data set consists of NJAX grades 3 through 8, disaggregated by ethnicity and LEP by a particular assessment. Okay, once again, I'll begin with African American. On each assessment, these are individuals that scored proficient and above in language arts and math. I will look at NJX, grade 3 through 8, language arts, literacy, and math. Hispanic and Latino, who scored proficient and above. My next slide is language arts, literacy, and math for all LEP students, current and former, who scored proficient and above in language arts and mathematics in these grades, grade 3 through grade 8. My last data set is 2014 High School Proficiency Assessment, short named as HESPA, for first-time 11th graders only. This gives us a trend from 2011 to 2012, language arts and literacy and mathematics. I must bring to your attention the positive growth we had. For 2011, it was 61.8, 2012, it was 65.3, 2013, it was 67.9, 2014, it was 71.7. Even though it's a different set of cohorts, but also it's kind of give us an indication in one area about program, because we have made significant positive growth. So we're moving in the right direction.
Did we identify what caused that?
Well, that's the next step, but we have to look at not just summative data, which is state data. We have to look at benchmarks, look at practice, instruction, and put it all together to see what's the cause of our positive growth. But this is a good sign because it's a state assessment that's basically assessed on our standards. My last slide is HESPA first time. All students disaggregated by ethnicity and LEP, language arts, literacy, and mathematics. Students who scored proficient and above. And basically it was disaggregated by ethnicity and LEP. This concludes the data portion. I'm going to turn it back to Dr. Johnson, who's going to describe our next step, which is our instructional plans.
So again, just to recap, a lot of that you see in our New Jersey ASK scores a very flat performance, whereas there's not been much growth or much decline over a 5-year trend. And then in the HESPA, you do see some improvement over the 5 years.
First and foremost, I would like to highlight again our 3-year academic plan. There's 4 salient points that really drive our academic planning. First point being evaluation instruments and systems. We really invested in having a sound evaluation and support infrastructure, and we're still growing in that work. The piece that is very critical when you talk about the written assessment, the taught assessment, as well as the assessed curriculum, is the alignment. So currently we are full force in science with the alignment of the next generation science standards that was just adopted this past summer by the Department of Education. So we have 2 years for full alignment, and we are striving very hard to have that alignment complete this year. What does that mean for our students? That means in elementary school as well as middle school and high, we will have engineering units, embedded ed. We're going to be thinking and acting as a scientist. All students, not just select students in select buildings, will be participating in the science fair. All of you are familiar with the scientific method, and that really digs deeper and promotes higher order thinking. And we want all of our students to have that experience. Furthermore, when you talk about high rigor, we're looking at having for the first time a math bowl where we promote academic competition. We'll do it locally, and as we build our competency in that area, we will look at competition with other districts. Then, which is critical, is the literacy emphasis, and I believe once we triangulate the data sets, the district's effort in making sure that we have a well-written literacy program, at least at the elementary school and the high. We're evolving at the middle school level, and a focus on academic language. We have a large ELO population, and we're really digging deep in making sure that we have an infrastructure that supports academic language so that we can accelerate students' mastery of English and they can exit our programming. The last piece, and we're involving in this work as well, is the use of data. So we use data frequently, but we need an infrastructure, and we have one now, and we're working out the kinks at the state level, and that's our EdConnect infrastructure. So Elizabeth and Trenton received kudos from the Department of Education for really digging deep and working hard to embrace EdConnect, because we know in a few months, PARCC is going to be online. So we need to work out the kinks, we need to figure out where our technological enhancement opportunities are and invest in the work now. We honor our teachers, we honor our leaders, we honor all of the district staff that have really been sweating through the evolution of our utilization of EdConnect. But we know that time now is going to make the implementation of our PARCC administration 10 times smoother, and then our students' performance will actually document what they can do, and it won't be that our technology is a barrier to really illustrating the students' performance. So after we move beyond the academic plan, we really want to dig deeper, and this work is in progress, and it's called our instructional framework. And there's multiple components to the instructional framework. The first piece is, as a district, what is our vision for instruction? What do we envision instruction to look like? Classroom to classroom, building to building. We need to operationally define that. Furthermore, we need to delineate what is our theory of action. So once the vision is operationally defined, what's going to be our pathway to realize that vision? That's first and foremost. So we are in that work now. We have vetted just the shell of this idea with our literacy leaders to get their feedback. We're vetting it with our administrators. Once we get all the feedback, we're going to convene a committee, because this has to be shared work. Teachers invested, administrators invested, and central office staff invested, because we need to create the conditions for high quality instruction to occur in the classroom. Furthermore, what do we mean by high quality instruction? When we say accountable talk, what does that mean? So we are operationally defining so that all teachers, irrespective of where they went to school, all administrators, irrespective of where they went to school, has a similar understanding regarding what we mean when we say certain terms. A uniform lesson study protocol. So in order to get better, we have to grow together. We have to have honest, non-evaluative conversation about our practice, and we have to be vulnerable. So coming up with a lesson plan protocol really, in my opinion, will take some of the tension around being good collaborators from people judging my work. Because it's not about judging the work, it's about sharing my reflections so that we can get better together. So that's a part of the work that we envision. Also, we need to be very clear and intentional around what vocabulary, by grade level, by content, we need every single student in every single classroom and every single school to have. So operationally defining what's our college and career ready vocabulary that we want all students. Now that's not the maximum, that's a minimum, irrespective of where a student sits by grade level of content. Instructional practices. So we want to operationally define when we should be exposing our students to specific instructional practices. So let me give you a for example that's listed in the PowerPoint. Prior to Common Core, students did not get introduced to text patterns until the 7th grade. So when I say text patterns, I'm talking about a description writing. I'm talking about a cause and effect writing. I'm talking about a problem and solution. And those of us who are good readers, you can look at the text pattern without really reading deeply and discern what type of questions would generate from this reading. Prior to Common Core, we didn't talk about it until 7th grade. With Common Core, it is now in 4th grade. So we need to re-engage ourselves with some of these higher level concepts that were not previously expected of our students until later in their educational career. Sample of college and career rubrics. So we have this vision that all of our students are going to graduate college and career ready. How are we allowing them to self-assess their work? And how are we as educators self-assessing their work using rubrics that are college and career ready? Park has already released rubrics. So we have them. They're very lofty. So my team, which I want to acknowledge, we have 7 members from the Department of Curriculum Instruction, Professional Development, Assessment, and Accountability. So I thank my team members for being here. We're deep in this work because we know that we have to really grapple with what do we want kids to do and how can we set them up for success with rubrics. So we're working on that piece as well. And these rubrics will really delineate what does excellence mean. So sometimes excellence is in the eye of the beholder. And we need to make sure that we take that piece out and make sure that we're all embracing the same standards around these concepts. So as I mentioned, the instructional framework is under development. As we came before you for our service delivery model, we will come before you for board adoption of this document, but I want to underscore it's a document to help us get better. And it's to operationally define what that pathway of helping us get better from an instructional standpoint will be. It has no bearing on the evaluation process. We just want to make sure we're using the same language. We all have the benefit of the same tools, so we all know the rules of engagement so that we can grow in this work together. So at this time, I will open up the floor for questions, concerns, reflections.
One question regarding character education. How is character education infused into this overall instructional framework? Dealing with values and things of that nature in terms of our students, where they come from, the environment that they come from, and dealing with character education and dealing with those things.
Well, I definitely know my colleague, Dr. Wilson, and his team have already begun this work, so we have Second Step that will be coming into our schools as a formal character education program. At the secondary level, we're going to be bringing in restorative justice to really help us grapple with self-worth, identity, situating ourselves within the context of learning. We definitely can't do that in isolation, and I'm partnering with my colleague, Dr. Wilson, so that we can really dig deep and coordinate our efforts.
Thank you so much for this presentation. This is a really, I guess I'm trying to find the words. I hate I missed the meeting the other day. I'm wondering, how do we get buy-in? Because what you're suggesting is, what is it I'm looking for? A new way of doing business here in Trenton, in the district. How do we get buy-in from all the parties and stakeholders involved?
So my experience since I've been here is I've found that my union partners, TEA, TASA in particular, have been very open and engaged to having a conversation. Now, they definitely represent their membership fiercely, but they're open to all of us being on the same page regarding improving student achievement. That's our common goal. So that brings us all to the table. In terms of this work, the instructional framework, my theory around buy-in and engagement is as follows. The shell I personally designed from bodies of work from school districts that are leading the country. So the shell without the content is there. I vetted the shell with the literacy coaches and our mathematics coaches who are leaders in this field, and they're going to complete a survey to say, hey, this isn't working, this isn't working. I did the same thing with a small body of administrators. From that, we're going to form a committee that's going to represent teachers, administrators. We're going to have official representatives from our teachers union, official representatives from our administrators union, and we're going to dig our sleeves up. I don't think it's going to be easy work, but I think it's going to be necessary work. And the fact that we all come together, because everyone I've come across since I've been in Trenton is committed to making sure the data tells the real story regarding what our kids can do. So I think that's going to be our commonality. And we're going to roll up our sleeves. There's definitely going to be bits and pieces that we don't necessarily agree with, but we're going to work collaboratively to bring that agreement, because this work can't wait. And from this work, we've already designated dollars aside for professional development. So my hope is to come back very soon with a collaborative work that's been vetted and supported by all stakeholders. And then the next phase is digging deep and professionally developing, because the tool in and of itself is the first step. The second piece is how do you contextualize what's written with what's actually going on every single day. The teaching and learning dynamic is so personal, it's very emergent, so we really need to have professional development on how that will look. So I'm very optimistic that we're going to be able to move this work forward, because we all want what's best for kids.
Thank you.
Other than the New Jersey Act, what other assessments do you believe that we have in place now that will assess our students going forward?
Okay, so we currently...
you may have already addressed it.
That's okay. I can refer you to page 13 in your board report. There's an assessment suite of scores and actual data regarding what we are doing. So we're doing the Scholastic Reading Inventory, the Scholastic Math Inventory. We're doing the Model State Curriculum benchmarks in all the core areas. We have teacher-made assessments that are very thorough in terms of what we are teaching. We have various programs such as Read 180, Systems 44, and other programs of a similar nature that gives us diagnostic data. See, the piece that I think doesn't tell us the full story in terms of responding to NJS, that's not a diagnostic assessment. So you may have one or two questions regarding a standard. As an instructional leader, that doesn't give you teaching points. It just tells you our kids, based on one or two questions, may not know inferencing. Could it be that they didn't try? Could it be that the question wasn't fully developed? Could it be, there's a lot of could it be's, and the fact that it's not a diagnostic assessment in nature, you really can't come up with an instructional next step agenda. So when you talk about Scholastic Reading, Scholastic Math, they are computer adapted, which means as the students answer the questions correctly, it will scale up. If they answer correct question incorrectly, it will scale down, and that's more diagnostic in nature. And many of our intervention programs that are computer-based, they have diagnostic assessments. So a part of the work that we're going to be doing as a leadership team is really looking at the assessment suite data to try to tell a complete story regarding our next steps. DRA data, for example. Each teacher, K through 5, will receive a personalized next step plan from colleagues in my department and our partners at the state regarding what they can potentially do to respond to this data. So we want our teachers to know and our school leaders to know you're not alone in this work. We're going to help you analyze the data. Some don't need the help. They know exactly what to do. Some appreciate the help so that they have a plan. Kendra, she's going to be in the remediation group. John is going to be in the reteach group, but at their own grade level. Kelly's going to be in the enrichment group. They're way above grade level. These are some activities you can engage your students in order to move student achievement forward. So if you're looking at page 13, you see a variety of assessments that complements, quite frankly, our profit tells a more complete story than what are one snapshot in time. And we have to do better. Let's be real clear, because our kids are going to have to take those type of assessments. But when you talk about instructional next steps, you really need to be looking at a more diagnostic tool so that we can really dig deep and shape our instructional next steps.
So are these new assessments that we're currently implementing, or these assessments that we've always had?
So, there are assessments that we've always had, but hasn't necessarily been utilized to the fullest capacity. So we've had assessment data for SRI and SMI that we have longitudinal data. What we're doing now is we're really maximizing all of the license that we have so that we're not only using it for diagnostic assessment, we're using the same tool for progress assessment. So we may give the test 3 times a year just to do points in time. But for students who are not functioning on grade level, we have more licenses that we haven't been using, but we can use to do progress monitoring. And we have a lot of resources in that area, and we're working diligently with our leaders, both teacher leaders and principal leaders, to make sure that they are aware of how these resources can be used. So to answer your question, yes, we've had these data, but we're enhancing the utilization of these data sets.
Do you have a time frame on when the data sets will be analyzed?
So we have the NJS cluster data sets already analyzed. On Friday, I will be having a conference call to do the analytic report for SRI and SMI. So that's 3 data sets that we will have by the conclusion of this week. We currently have DRA data that we are triangulating. So my vision is, at least by the end of the month, we will have 4 data sets that can really tell a very complete story regarding our next steps.
One more final question. When do you think, I know you mentioned your target dates and everything, but when do you think you'll be able to come back to us a couple of months from now, 3 months from now, with some updates in terms of where we are in terms of assessments and how our students are actually doing now? Not waiting for New Jersey Ask, but how they're doing right now, so we can understand maybe on an aggregated basis or by school how our students are doing and how we're addressing those assessments in terms of weaknesses, strengths, and how we're driving our instruction to meet those needs of our students.
Well, I would recommend that we have at least 2 data points. So that would mean by January we would have given our internal assessments twice. So we can have like a pre-treatment, the treatment is instruction, and do like a mid-year treatment to see where we are with that piece. By that time, it is my hope through the collaborative disposition, we can have the instructional framework at least in a place that we can bring before you for your consideration and start professionally developing on that framework. Bits and pieces of the framework were already in that work. We're talking about 3-part objective. We're talking about how we're going to have standards-based bulletin boards. We're talking about writing rubrics. So we are talking about this work, quite frankly, in isolation. The framework will bring it all together and make meaning. So your question is, when will we be able to come back? I would recommend at least 2 data sets. So that's January when we'll be doing the next data sets. However, I will have at least 1 data set by the end of this month. So I would defer to the superintendent regarding when he would like me to come back with a data analysis and next steps.
We certainly can look at that probably February, March, sometime after we get the 2 data sets and have an opportunity to analyze them. So February, March time.
Okay. You talked about in order to do all of this, it was going to take a lot of professional development. How much time is going to be invested in that professional development before we see results?
Well, we're very fortunate, Madam President, that we have a coaching model already in place. All of our schools have literacy coaches, and all of our priority schools have mathematics coaches. And in the schools that don't have a daytime coach, they have math leaders assigned to help support after school hours. So I think we are positioned very nicely to turnkey training very quickly, because we have full-time individuals, FTEs, that they are job-embedded coaches, and they're a robust group of professionals who are on board to help us move this charge forward. So I think we're positioned well to do that work. But in addition to our coaches, we have allocated resources to provide teachers who want to have additional training, after school trainings as well.
Quick question, I was just wondering, as you broke down the data, and it's not in the packet, I'd be curious to see if there's any variation amongst the schools. Like, which ones seem to be excelling, and I ask that because maybe there's some sort of best practices that can be gleaned from the teachers that are doing it in those schools that maybe we can report back. I just am curious. And the other thing too, which I'll just throw out there, is I'd also be curious to see, as we analyze these scores for the district, I'd be curious to see how our charter counterparts are doing.
Interesting. I can tell you we definitely have some schools that trickle to the top. I would prefer to give you, if I may, a complete analysis for review, but there's one middle school, for example, in mathematics is at least 14 points above the other middle schools. And I have a meeting with the math team there to try to understand what their best practices are, why they're not where they need to be. There is something to be said when you're 17 percentage points above the other schools. So that's something we're working on. We have about 3 elementary schools that are really holding their own, and I think we'll be quite proud of them. But when they're mixed into the aggregate, their scores appear a lot lower. Furthermore, we have about 4 elementary schools that we really could be in a position to request a reevaluation of their identification as potential focus schools and priority schools, because they have made significant gains. So we have some individual schools that are shining stars, and the goal is to have conversations, not just with the leadership, but really with the folks in the trenches, because they tell the story about what's really happening in the building. So I can tell you I have one appointment with the math teachers at the middle school, and the goal is to utilize my very competent team to go out and to dig deeper.
Is it possible, I know we talk to the teachers, we talk to the teens, but I never hear anybody say we talk to the students.
Oh, absolutely.
To find out, is it something that the teacher's doing? Is it something internally to themselves? I mean, to have a school that's 17 points above other schools, is that because of the quality of the teaching that's happening, or the quality of the quality of the students? Do we interview the students as well?
Student voice is critical, and I know part of our walkthrough protocol is going to be to gather more data from student voice. In particular, middle school and high school students are better positioned to give you critical feedback. Elementary students, yes, maybe intermediate, but oftentimes their feedback is driven on affective. Typically, the higher grade students can really give you some constructive feedback. So student voice is a part of the conversation, and we will be holding conversations with them to really try to complement the data set that we currently have, so we can be more intentional in our responsiveness.
You mentioned something very positive in your statement, or your answer to one of the questions. You talked about priority and focus schools. You talked about some of those schools that are achieving well, maybe be able to be pulled out of that status. Is that what you said? Or
That is what I said, and I reached out to DOE to get the process to go about requesting that consideration. Here's the hiccup that we're going to have. We're moving to Park. So I want clarity. How will we be able to document success? Because you have to document for 3 consecutive years in order to exit, Superintendent.
I've also been in conversations with the DOE, and there are 2 schools that are poised to be exited out of focus status probably in January. That's still in the process right now. So I can't say the names yet because that changes. And there are also 2 additional focus schools that have made it on track towards an additional year if they continue, that they would be able to exit. So we have 4 focus schools right now. The DOE has not yet begun the conversation about priority schools, so I'm not sure yet one way or the other what will happen there. But we do have 4 focus schools right now that have made significant improvements in that area. 2 who, if everything goes through the approval process as such, would be able to be announced probably in January, February, they would announce that they would be able to be reclassified as a non-focus school.
I think that's excellent.
That's great.
That's good news. Very good news. Look forward to hearing it.
Once it's official, fine. I don't want to say anything because it's not official final. So that's why we didn't put it in part of this presentation because, anything could change. But at least in the preliminary conversations, that is where we are. And once it's official and final, certainly we'll have that information for the board and for the public as well.
Please let us know also in those priority schools, not the priority ones are able to be discussed.
Yes, there has not been, the DOE has not yet begun any conversation on that substantively around whether or not priority schools will be exited or you could go the other way too. You could have schools that go into, so that's still open for discussion. And when we know more information, we'll certainly report that. If there are no other questions, then thank you, Dr. Johnson. Oh, yeah, one.
Actually, it's more of a concern and comment than anything else. As I go through the scores, I'm really concerned about the language arts literacy scores in special ed. And from a lot of what I know in special ed, a lot of special ed are language-based problems. And we don't really have a program to address the language-based problems. And we need to look into a research-based program that we can use in this district to address their language needs, which will also help their scores.
I absolutely concur. Ms. Alexa Ingram, Assistant Superintendent for Special Education, and I are really collaborating. There's 2 key pieces I would like to share with you that may provide some context. The first piece is that I philosophically believe that all students are general education students first. So we need to make sure that all students have access to a high-quality core program. In addition to that, we need to make sure that we have a research-based program, and Ms. Alexa Ingram and I have been vetting multiple programs that we have access to some currently that we want to redirect for this very specialized population. But I would be remiss if I didn't say, Madam President, the key piece we need to underscore with all of our colleagues is that special education students are students of regular education first, and they receive additional services that are specialized. That's a conceptual shift in this district. So I want to put that out as context, but Ms. Ingram and I are working very closely, and I will concur with your observation that we definitely have some work to do in the area of language arts with our students with special needs.
Thank you. And the other thing is that I kind of like scratch my head because it's not just special ed, but it's definitely prominent in special ed, is that in the 3rd grade, they can do math. But after that, they can't do math anymore.
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit at our curriculum and special education meeting. And I will repeat what I said then, Madam President, is that mathematically, the understanding goes from concrete to abstract. So what we have to do is make sure that students master conceptually, not just through rote memory, mathematical practices, and then move into the application from an abstract standpoint. That's our growing opportunity there. So I think by making sure we reposition our 6th, 7th grade curriculum so that all of our students are ready for Algebra 1 in 8th grade, that's going to be helpful. With the Common Core, we have embraced the 8 mathematical practices that requires on a daily basis that we are thinking abstractly from a student's concept, that they're using models every day, that they're having mathematical discourse. So through these practices, we are going to help students understand abstractly as well as conceptually math, because I think that the dissonance is clear that when it's rote mathematical practices, our kids are fine, but when they need to make meaning of that math within a more application standpoint, that's where it gets a little shaky, and we haven't been able to really situate ourselves as the kids continue to matriculate. On the language arts side, you definitely see that as the kids matriculate through the district, as they get into high school and 11th graders, we're performing, 80%. But math, we still have a lot of work to do. And I think with those shifts in curriculum and with the teaching methodology that's embraced with mathematical practices, we'll start to see some positive trajectory there.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to say that you're talking about creating a new normal, and I look forward to working with you to make that happen.
Thank you. Likewise.
I just want to make just a comment to say that I definitely enjoyed your presentation. I want to thank your team that it definitely you've thought very granular about what has to happen. So I'm looking forward to your presentation. I know Superintendent said in February to see kind of where we go forward so that we can look at those results and be able to measure them and be able to tie the two together so we can actually see how we're actually progressing in a direction that I know that we both share what we want the district to be. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the superintendent. I want to be able to dig a lot deeper into the materials that you presented, dig deeper into understanding the approach, the framework, and have Dr. Johnson available to answer any questions that we may have even after this meeting, after this presentation, but be available at a board meeting if we have additional questions to ask at that time.
Well, certainly, if you have additional questions, I would ask you to send them to me, and I will get those questions answered by Dr. Johnson to you, and we'll send it to the full board. So certainly, we always can do that at any time. Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Our second and final presentation this evening is also an annual required presentation to the board and the public on our disciplinary and safety data. And so I welcome up Dr. Roy Wilson and members of his team, and he will introduce whoever is presenting along with him at the appropriate time. And again, this is to provide the board, you just received a report on the student achievement data from last year and some of the next steps and things that need to happen. This is in regards to the same line, but now school safety and discipline. And I want to say, before Dr. Wilson starts, that we purposely had Dr. Johnson and her team go first, because we believe that the instructional program and having the issues that Dr. Johnson presented in terms of the framework put in place will ultimately have a great impact on the data connected to safety and discipline. We have to look at instruction first. It drives everything, and that's why we intentionally, not just by random design, asked Dr. Johnson to present first.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Millington, Vice President Red, Superintendent Duran, and board members. My name is Dr. Roy T. Wilson. Tonight, along with Mr. Wilfredo Ortiz, who is the Supervisor of Student Support, we will be presenting an overview of the Volunteer Manager's Report for the Trenton Public Schools 2013-2014 school year. To be clear, to be very forthcoming, this data was compiled by both security services under the leadership of Mr. Herb Bradley. Regarding our overview, we will discuss disciplinary actions. We will look at the violence report for 2013-2014. We will not include the comparative analysis. However, we will document and review the incident summaries, disciplinary actions, police response to incidents. The comparative analysis we will save for you at a different time as we compile more data just giving you the September date was not enough. I want to look at it from a longitudinal perspective. And district and school-based initiatives to address school violence. So at this time, I will ask Ms. Ortiz to come up and present for our department. Ms. Ortiz.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to stand before you. Really an honor to be able to support the students of the Trenton Public Schools. I'd like to start the presentation by celebrating the presentation by Dr. Johnson, and also to echo what Dr. Duran said about the fact that the academic piece is so important, but if we don't get school climate under control, if students don't feel safe, if teachers don't have classrooms that are well managed and supported, then it does impact instruction. If students are being suspended too often, then it will impact the academic achievement. So our role, if you will, is to make sure that we work as a team to provide the supports that teachers need and schools need in order for students to achieve at high levels. In doing so, the first I want to talk about disciplinary actions. These are actions that are taken at the school when students have discipline issues. And they go from something as simple as a temporary reassignment to a buddy class to more complicated legal hearings where we have to actually offer students due process and placement. Another thing that we do at the schools is to refer students to the INRS team. And I want to be real clear that moving forward, we did this year spend a lot of time on the INRS stands for Intervention and Referral Services. And it is every school has to have a team in place. It's required by state law. And the purpose of the INRS team is designed to assist students who are experiencing learning, behavior, health, or social emotional difficulties, and to assist staff who have difficulties in addressing students' learning, behavior, health, and social emotional needs. So we spent a lot of time this year with INRS. We did a lot of training with our principals, our vice principals. We trained the social workers. We trained the child study team members. We trained school counselors. We even trained the attendance officers. And we put together a comprehensive INRS plan that is online so that this process of providing student supports, whether it's academic or behavior or medical, is a consistent approach so that it's clear that you no longer just set a student down because they acted out. If students are having real serious problems with attendance, with behavior, and with academic problems, they need to go to a procedure. And that procedure is the INRS process. And the members of the team, well, this team, I want to mention that because it's so critical to the work that has to go forward. These are professional people who service the students in the schools. The team is comprised of the principal. We have the regular education teacher. Oftentimes in the past, what happened with INRS teams, the regular teacher, the teacher who was making the referral, didn't attend the meeting because they didn't release her. Our principals have made a commitment to release the teachers so that they can participate in the process, so they can give input, and so that it all works to help students. We also have the school nurses on the team. We have intervention specialists, the resource teachers, the psychologist, the social worker. They come depending on what the specific issue the student may be having. We have the referring teacher, and we have the literacy leaders and coaches, so that everyone works to provide these young people with supports. What happens then is a plan is developed. If it's a behavior issue, we're talking about behavior. If it's a behavior issue, then a plan is put in place to assist that teacher to address the negative behavior. That plan is monitored by the school principal. And if it doesn't work, then they come back to the INRS team and they put additional plans. We extend the time. We do something different. We can no longer just suspend children. We have to provide them supports. We bring in the parents. The parents are part of the INRS team. Our hope is that some of the strategies that the team comes together with and provides the students, that when the parents are there, the parents can implement some of those things at home. So that's part of what we do with with the RNS. Other things that we do is in-school suspension and out-of-school suspension. We prefer students to go into in-school suspension as opposed to out-of-school suspension, but we do have a discipline code and the code has to be followed. So there are certain things that require students to have to be suspended out of school. Other things that we do, and the things that we don't want to do, but we have to do are the legal hearings. And those are, we meet twice a month, twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, when we have to provide students who have been suspended for very serious, and we'll get more into it in the presentation, where they've done some offenses that are quite serious, and then we have to suspend them for a total of 9 days. And when that happens, we have to provide students with a legal hearing and provide home instruction if necessary until either placement or we resolve whatever the issue may be. And those are our legal hearings. Remember, we talked about, so we get into the violence report for 2013-2014. And this is a comparison, a comparative analysis of Trenton Public Schools reported incidents. We try to compare last year, September 13 through September 9, 2013 to 06-24-14. Our school, for all schools, there was a total of 1,426 incidents were reported for 2013-2014 versus 1,270 for 2012 and 2013 school year. And that is a cumulative 12% increase in reported incidents. Now we do want to say that we've taken some steps this year to make sure that the data is collected appropriately, that teachers are, that school staff who inputs the data is doing it correctly. So Dr. Wilson at the end of the presentation will talk more about what we're doing to make sure that the data is clean, that it's consistent, that all schools are reporting it appropriately, so that we don't have discrepancies reported to the state. We want to make sure that the information that is reported by both security, who does our security, represent our security officers, and the information that's actually entered into the Power School is the same. It's consistent so that we can report clean data to the state and also to you. We go into fights, and for all, these are what we've collected for all schools. There was a total of 548 fights were reported for 2013-2014, compared to 552 for 2012-2013, the year before. That's a cumulative 1% decrease. So we did have a small decrease in fights. However, when you turn the page, hold your breath, because when we talk about student assaults against students, the numbers are scary. So let's look at those. We reported for all schools 582 student assaults against students were reported in 2013-2014 versus 347 for the 2012-13 school year, which is a 68% increase. So I got a little nervous when I saw these numbers, and I actually met with Bradley and I asked him, Chief, why are these numbers, are they accurate? And so one of the things that I did, I pulled a legal terms glossary that we have in our discipline code, and I wanted to know what's the difference between an assault and a fight, right? I mean, maybe that would be the question that you would ask me. So I thought I researched it a little bit. And my understanding that a fight is when two individuals fight, you know, they hit one another and it's mutual. And an assault is an attempt that causes, a person is guilty of assault if he attempts to cause or purposely, knowingly, or recklessly causes bodily injury to another. Or negligently causes bodily injury to another with a deadly weapon, or attempts by physical menace to put another in fear of evident serious bodily injury. So, Still a little bit confused by that, but I guess that the assault is unwarranted, so that if I slap you and you don't slap me back, that's an assault. If you slap me back, it's a fight. Is that kind of clear a little bit what it is? So we really want to make sure that we're going to start looking at these assaults, and are they being captured appropriately? Are they being captured accurately, I should say, not appropriately, but are we capturing those appropriately? And where are they coming from? So, so moving forward, what we're going to be able to do is look at specifically at where we're targeting specific schools where we may have more incidents of certain assaults and fights. We also have information on student assaults against teachers and security officers. What was reported was 152 student assaults against teachers and security officers were reported for 2013 and 2014 versus 145 reported during the 2012-2013 school year. There was a cumulative 5% increase, so there was an increase in those. We also got some information on robberies. For all schools, there was a total of 11 robbery incidents were reported for 2013-2014. We didn't have data for robberies on 2012. How is this data captured? The data is captured primarily via office discipline referrals we see from the security officers' incident reports, teacher incident reports and statements, student and witness statements, and police reports. Where do most of these incidents occur? So we captured some information of where they were taking place. 48% in the classroom, 19% in the cafeteria, 14 in halls and corridors, 7 outside perimeter areas, 4% at the main entrances, 4% in the locker rooms and gyms, 2 in the off-school grounds, 2 in bathrooms, 1 in the bus stops, and 1% in the main office. Disciplinary actions taken against students. There was a total of 13,528 referrals. Out of those 13,528, 776 were detentions. Another 42 were in-school suspensions. 1,227 were out-of-school suspensions, and we had no expulsions. Our district doesn't expel students. If they need a legal hearing, what we do when we have to move them from our school district, we find an alternate placement at other schools, like Reno or ESC or whatnot. Police calls for service. We kind of captured the number of police calls that was called by the school. There was 1,470 police calls for services were made during the 2013-2014 school year. We can compare that data moving forward because we don't have information for 2012. How are we addressing violence in our schools? At this time, I would like to bring back Dr. Roy Wilson, who will talk about moving forward, what are we doing to address violence in our schools.
So, in looking at our data this past school year, we started off the year with some particularized initiatives in order to stem the trend of how we reported incidents and fights and vandalism and things of that nature. So we're focusing on character education. We have a program that's called Second Step that has been purchased for all of our guidance counselors, and basically, from a programming standpoint, in terms of what it covers, it looks at skills of learning, empathy, emotional management, problem solving, bully prevention, goal setting, substance abuse prevention, and those topics are going to be covered in all of our schools through all of our counselors from a curriculum standpoint. So the counselors will go into the classroom and deliver actual instruction to to cover those particular areas, to really focusing on character education. One of the things that I know to be certain is that in order for children to be less violent, they have to be able to respect and know each other. They have to be able to respect the process and the understanding that education is something that is meaningful to them in their lives, and it's important for them to stay in the classroom, but also to have functional, constructive relationships with their classmates so they can learn from each other. We have climate and culture teams in many of our schools in which the voice of our students have been captured through surveys in terms of how they feel about the school. Do they feel it's clean? Do they feel it's a proper learning environment? Do they feel valued? Is there mentoring that occurs within the classroom? Do my teachers care about me? Do I matter to them? So the climate and culture teams, there were surveys that were done, and from that information in regards to also surveying the parents as well as the teachers, came up with formalized plans that they're implementing this year to really look at the climate and culture in the buildings. And just to touch on climate and culture for a second, it goes back to the presentation that we had. When we have great instructional practices in our classrooms, we don't have many climate and culture issues because children are getting value within their classroom. We are providing them with a quality education. So with that being the case, they stay in their class and they're more engaged. Elementary and middle school initiatives around those climate and culture initiatives that were adopted by each of the schools, they have particular acronyms they utilize within the classroom that focus on instruction as well as behavioral management systems and keep kids focused. So when a kid is committing a particular infraction, a school leader within the building, whether it be a teacher or an administrator, can refer that child to that particular acronym and ask them to spell it out. And it's a reminder of what the expectation is for that school, along with our district mission. We are monitoring discipline data in Power School and the Power School usage by our teachers. We have a wonderful school, a wonderful system that will enable us to capture data that is underutilized. So therefore, next year we will not stand before you and present data from a different source. We want to present our own data through our own system that we can say we have thoroughly checked on a monthly basis to ensure that our teachers are implementing and inputting proper discipline data that is going to be checked by our schools on a monthly basis. And as I said to you initially, when I talked about our program overview, I will be presenting to you over the course of time a summary of a comparative analysis in terms of the number of incidents that have been reported from last school year to this school year, so that you can see, based upon these particular initiatives, the growth that's occurring within our schools. Also, too, we are employing our principals as well as our teachers to engage in professional development regarding effective student engagement, suspension reduction, and classroom management. So when we talk about student engagement, we're not just talking about the teachers having conversations around instruction within the classroom. We're talking about how our leaders engage students who are having particular issues in regards to what's happening with them at home, what's happening with them at school. Are they having some bullying issues within the school? So it's not a matter of if Rashawn is having a very difficult day. We want to have a conversation with them, utilizing our human capital within our building. We have parent liaisons, we have counselors that can engage these students and find out exactly what's happening with them. So if they're having some particular issues, it's not a matter of saying that just because you don't want to stay engaged today, we ought to send you home. That can't be the focus and our aim anymore. We can't continue to just arbitrarily disconnect our children from the educational process. And especially we are losing our African American boys within this. Suspension reduction, we want to look at our numbers on a monthly basis and have informed conversation with school leaders, which will be my responsibility. If there's a particular school that has a high number of suspensions, I'm going to engage the principal in a conversation around what's happening with that particular student, the mechanism that exists within your school, how are you utilizing those, your NRS, your counselors, your parent liaisons, all of those different sources that can help our children grow. And in regards to classroom management, having informed discussions with our leaders so they can turnkey best practices in regards to classroom management. And again, it all revolves around how do we engage our students so that the test scores will rise and we have productive youngsters ready to enter into the world and take ownership over our city and our nation. Questions?
I don't have a question, but more of a comment. So I can see
in slide number, I guess it says 48% of the incidents are happening in the classroom. So I'm interested to see how we tie in, because if this is happening in the classroom, it speaks to why our scores are where they are, and why if we're in the classroom, the students cannot concentrate on their academic, what's being delivered by the teacher. To me, it just speaks to kind of where we need to start. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing. You definitely stated what we're going to do, but I want to see how we can decrease the number of incidents that are happening in the classroom. And like you said, how do we hold the teachers and that staff? How can we change that so that that's not happening? Because out of all the places, 48% is right where the instruction time is happening.
Yes, if I can just offer up, when we take a child out of class, we suspend them either in school absence or suspension. It's an instructional day that's lost that they can never get back.
Right.
So we have children that are, from a systematic standpoint, continuously having problems, and we're pushing them out of class, and they're already functioning at a lower level. Then how do we expect them to catch up? So we really have to look at our practices.
The other thing that we didn't report here that we would definitely moving forward, many of those large numbers are not single students. It's a lot of the same students who repeat. And many of those incidents and fights, and this is such a large number, it's not that we have huge amounts of students in each school, but it's a lot of the same students, which is why Mr. Ortiz began the conversation with the IRNS process. So that's very important to consider and know that it definitely is type of instruction. It's definitely a part of engagement. It's not solely because of what teachers and principals necessarily aren't doing or teaching in the classroom. It's about we have some students with very, very high needs that we have to look at it more holistically, and we need to address their emotional and social issues in conjunction with the instruction, because you're absolutely correct. But if we don't, I'd be remiss to not say that if we simply look at, oh, there was how many fights, that many kids fought, that's actually not that many kids. It's a smaller number who are fighting several times, or assaulting several times, or being defiant several times, and they often have deep-rooted issues that we have to supply more support to our counselors, our principals, our teachers, and how do you deal with some of those quote-unquote, for lack of a better word, repeat students who are continuing to engage in those practices. And so while the instructional framework will definitely help, we also have to marry that with the understanding that we have some students who have very, very deep-rooted issues that we must address.
Thank you, Superintendent. So I think that will speak to the tool you said you'll have where next time when you present, I think it was Power School, so that way we'll be able to see the data a little bit better, so that 48% is reflective of what you just said.
Yes, and I definitely, when we report next time, we're going to show you, of those incidents, how many students is that actually, as opposed to how many actual incidents. So for example, if it's 50 incidents, is that 50 students? No, it's not. It's how many? Was it 10? Is it 12 that are doing it several times? So we'll make sure to take a note that we can have that the next time.
If you could just expand a little bit more about the 68% cumulative increase of student assaults. We don't have the data for the 2012-2013, but I just wanted to understand a little bit more about the huge increase, to see if you've been able to identify a particular area, a particular school, or 68% sounds like a huge jump.
Sure.
The simple assaults, and Mr. Ortiz, first of all, good evening. Mr. Ortiz was talking about, trying to give you a description of what a simple assault is by New Jersey Criminal Code, which we have been using embedded in the Student Conduct Code. Simple assault is where you commit serious bodily harm to any individual, like punching, smacking, kicking, and things of that nature. And we had maybe 2 or 3 schools last year, and I want to name the schools that had a significant spike in assaults last year. Okay, and that's what drove the number. It started, the trend lines were going up each year, and at the schools we're talking about, the trend lines continue going up in the same schools. So that goes back to what Dr. Duran was talking about. You have chronic offenders that's committing multiple assaults in schools. And you have one student, that committed probably over 30 during the course of a year. Okay, that's what we're talking about. So you don't have multiple students doing multiple assaults, but cumulatively, it adds up to that number you see right now, 582. And it was predictable because it's the same student, and you can see that if they continue to do it, say, at third grade level, it's going to escalate in the fourth grade into the fifth grade level. You know, why they're still trying to manage that student's behavior. A lot of good things they're working with the kids that we're talking about, these type of kids we're talking about, but they're still committing the same type of offenses because they don't have poor conflict resolution skills. Did I answer your question?
If I may, you spoke about the program that the guidance counselors would be going into the character courses that the guidance counselors would be using.
Yes.
Am I correct on that?
Second step.
Are we doing any assessment or evaluation to determine whether or not those are effective?
Well, this is the first year of this implementation. We just purchased it, so this will be the pilot year for that program.
I see.
But from a curriculum standpoint, it seems as if it has the various components that will really help our children to grow and really understand the importance of character and how meaningful that could be in their lives as well as in the school.
Is that going to be something that's a part of the curriculum process?
It's a part of what the guidance counselors will be delivering as part of their responsibilities as guidance counselors within our schools. So it's not just, and guidance counselors do a lot of different things within our schools, but we really want to provide them with a guide in regards to how to infuse character education into our schools. So we have a curriculum, that second step that really focuses on those key components that will enable our children to understand what character means and how they can formulate better relationships with their classmates.
Is there a way to embed that with instruction from teachers as well?
Absolutely,
rather than
absolutely.
just the guidance counselor, one shot?
Absolutely, Dr. Johnson and I, because it's from my office and the combination of our office from an instructional standpoint, Office of School Support, we definitely have some conversations about how to merge those two initiatives. Yes.
And there's a lot of that if you look at the program connected to some of the work that Dr. Johnson is referring to in terms of writing. There's a lot of that can be put into writing when we have writing prompts, when we have conversation starters with students, when our elementary teachers, or even our secondary, middle school language arts teachers, for example, when they give students a prompt to write about, you can look at some of the themes that have been taught through the second step curriculum. And in addition, to answer your question, we certainly will be doing an assessment to see two things. One, implementation. So we want to look at the implementation, how often these subjects are taught via specifically from the counselor, but then we also want to see, how does it tie into our overall curriculum? And then the second thing we will obviously want to look at, is there any reduction in any of these incidents connected to this work? So we have to look at it from a qualitative perspective of, how are things being done? Is it being implemented? Talk to our counselors, talk to our principals, talk to our teachers. Is it helping? Is it not? Is it taking up too much time? How can we rethink that qualitatively, but then also quantitatively? Is it having an impact? Because if we're going to invest this kind of money and time into something, we should hopefully see an impact. But again, I would argue that we really have to look deeper at the IRNS process, because I don't think buying a special curriculum and a separate program is going to solve this. It's really about looking at that. It's a small number. It's a small percentage of students who are impacting a large number of incidents. And that's where we have to look at, what are we doing for that group of students who have very, very, very high behavior, social, emotional needs that we must address. And that is a heavy lift and a different type of work that must be married with all the things that were presented previously about our instructional framework. But if we just look at this as a curriculum we're buying, that's not the end all and be all. because we have students that have very, very, very serious social and emotional health needs that we have to provide support in. And if we do not, then we're going to continue to see a lot of these numbers, even with a curriculum.
Next, my question is really in reference to the IRS process. And Superintendent, you somewhat answered the question. I think we did have a presentation in September, an update presentation in September on the IRS process. One of the things that I gleaned from the thread and the conversations with Mr. Ortiz, yes sir, is that that's an ongoing process and that there is still some challenges within the IRS process. Did I hear that correctly?
That's correct.
That we're working through. So I would anticipate another update at some point in time on the IRS process just to make sure that the board understands where we stand and how we're utilizing that process. The other thread that I gleaned from the conversation, both with Mr. Ortiz and with Dr. Wilson, was that we still have concerns with data. And whether it be Power School or some other system, that the data is still not wholly getting into our tool to use to assess and to report on the data for these purposes, whether it be fights or where students assault students, students assaulting teachers, God forbid, both. Robberies, we didn't have any data for last year. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm hearing that in fact we're still having some challenges with the database and data entry. Is that
We're having some challenges, but what we're doing is a spot check in regards to the data that we pull on a monthly basis in Power School, consistently through my office, going out to the schools, providing additional training and support to individuals who input the data on a consistent basis to ensure that it's happening, and cross-referencing with the information that we get from Bowles, as well as the information that we have, so that we have data sources that make sense. We can't have 1,500 incidents and 200 in Power School. That's just not going to be the reality moving forward. Moving forward, what we're going to do is have continuous conversation with our school leaders and ensure that they are inputting the data on a consistent basis and supporting those individuals who do so.
And you just came into our district, right? So you're picking up a lot of the information and really working with our superintendent to make this a reality in terms of our data being having good data. But we've had, as you probably have gathered in conversations with superintendent leadership team, challenges, to say the least, with data. And so I'm glad that in your report presentation that you've recognized that, and that you've reiterated the fact that we're still having those concerns. That's important. It's not necessarily the most important, but I think one of the most important aspects that I learned from your presentation was the character education program that I asked Dr. Johnson about, and I'm happy that even though it's in its first year, that we have a character education program where our counselors are actually working with our students who have challenges. And also I just wanted to ask in terms of the data that we're gathering, once we get to the point where we can gather the data accurately, is I remember even in the past that we had a school-by-school breakdown. Is that a different presentation that we had in the year, or a school-by-school breakdown of incidents? I remember seeing a school-by-school breakdown of incidents.
Yes.
You've seen a presentation like that. Chief Bradley, I think you may have presented last year. So I think it's very important if it's not able to be presented to the board for whatever reason, that you guys are analyzing that. That's going to pinpoint where those challenge issues are.
Right, we have that data, and we have analyzed that, and that led a lot of conversations going into the school year in regards to what has been reported from an individual school standpoint. And I've had personal conversations with principals in regards to those who have high numbers.
And we certainly, again, moving forward, as we present this, we will share with you that data. But we wanted to share with you the overarching issues and how we're being resolved before we just present school by school and then say this is what's going on in these schools. We need to have a better context to that, but we certainly will have that data.
Not to put the superintendent on the spot, but again, presentation that we asked Dr. Johnson to come back. We're going to make sure that we circle back on this so that we as a board and the community understand how we're doing. We present the framework, but we need to know.
Absolutely.
Even with the current schedule, you know, this first year, 6 months down the line, how we doing, and maybe it's 9 months, I'm not sure. That's, of course, superintendent's call.
We certainly will come back in the springtime sometime and we have more data to present in that aspect, so absolutely.
Can you go back to the slide? I believe it's actions taken. I think it was page 14. That one. Those numbers don't add up.
They wouldn't necessarily add up just because a student had received an obvious referral doesn't necessarily mean they would have gotten one of these actions. It may have been a phone call to a parent. It may have been something else. So this tells you how many obvious referrals, and then not every single referral that is written is going to generate a detention, in-school suspension, out-of-school, or expulsion. There are other measures of action. Sometimes it's a conference. The principal may call in, there's 2 students, call the parent. If you look at our code of conduct, anytime a referral is written, there are various degrees of actions. We only gave you the most immediate, I guess the ones that have the biggest impact of taking a student out of their environment, so a detention in school or out of school or social, but there are many of them where it may be a referral for a student who had a conflict. Maybe Jason and I had a conflict and then we didn't get any of those, but the principal and or vice principal or counselor was able to address it, call our parents, call them in and have a conference with us.
Maybe we should just put a thing that says other.
Disclaimer.
Miscellaneous, other, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
So that the numbers prove.
Okay, sure.
People who like numbers like
No problem. Just to follow up on that, I would have some real concerns if every officer referral resulted in one of these particular actions, meaning that our principals are doing a great job in regards to trying to counsel our students and trying to keep them in school and making sure that teachers formulate constructive and positive relationships with students. So if a student is removed from class for a short period of time, the principal, guidance counselor, parent liaison can engage that child in a conversation about the infraction, give them some strategies in regards to moving forward and send them back to class, which is most important.
Just real quickly, moving forward, in the INRS model, we have a referral that's what is used consistently and used by all the schools, so that it's one form that's used by all. And we're able now to capture, and we'll be able, moving forward, give you breakdowns that will say what other actions were taken. Parent conferences, lunch buddy, small group with counselor. We will be able to capture that now moving forward because we have a system that's part of the Power School.
I want to be deliberate. Does that suggest that there are multiple forms being used at some point?
Yes, there was.
District court?
Yes.
Yes.
So you streamline it down to one.
Yes, there was.
Yes.
One form.
Yes.
And also for office referral form and detention that were different. So streamlined.
We have uniformity in regards to the forms that are distributed.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one comment, not for Dr. Wilson or Mr. Ortiz, just a general comment. I just think we have presentations all the time, right? And we normally have at a board meeting that we kind of, not that we forget about it, but we have other presentations. So I want to make sure that if we have these questions, we can, of course, direct the superintendent, but also that they be able to come back to public and potentially answer additional questions we may have, in additional ones that the superintendent may answer, so that we all know how our schools are doing in this respect, as well as the testing perspective. So that's what I would ask.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson, Mr. Ortiz.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Okay, we move on to the board discussion and action on the agenda. Any discussion? I have something. The financing facilities, the withdrawal of funds from the maintenance reserve. Do we have a list of projects that go with that?
Yes. Mr. Collins and Mr. Mosley have a list of projects, and I believe I gave that information out to the board in the comprehensive maintenance plan.
Yes, it was on the
So those are projects that the $2 million is aligned to.
That's correct. It was all in the report that was given prior.
And it's outlined per school, by school. Yeah, but it's still the same. Yes. Because the comprehensive, remember, maintenance reserve keeps moving. It's an encompass. It's not like your other general fund.
And I know I'd asked you this again, because you took away my notes from the other day. What is AMAO?
AMAO is our measure where we must, it's an issue looking at the attainment of English language proficiency and showing that we have to, it's almost similar to what was previously done on Child Left Behind, where they had adequate progress. So this is for our English language learners making the adequate progress on their access tests and on their English language scores as they're attaining proficiency in English.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Second. Okay, roll call.
T.A. Graham.
Yes.
Tia Gusson.
Yes.
Jason Red. Jason Red.
Yes.
Jane Rosenbaum. Yes. Guillermo Gomez.
Yes.
Joe Trueheart.
Yes.
Denise Middleton.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Whereas the Board of Education must discuss subjects concerning personnel matters, negotiations, and legal matters. Whereas the aforesaid subjects are not appropriate subjects to be discussed in a public meeting. And whereas the aforesaid subjects to be discussed are within the exemptions which are permitted to be discussed and acted upon in closed executive session pursuant to PL 1975, Chapter 231, it is therefore resolved that the aforesaid subject shall be discussed in closed executive session by this board and administrative staff at the conclusion of the public segment of this meeting, and information pertaining thereto will be made available to the public as soon thereafter as possible, and once the reasons for non-disclosure no longer exist.